Okay, I'm Rose Ougo. I'm a High Court judge. Before my current station, I was working in the family division where we did a lot of adoption cases, both local and international. So my focus really is there human trafficking in adoption matters in Kenya? And that's what I'll focus on. You've been given the legal framework by my colleagues, so I'll just kind of focus on that. The adoption laws that we have are found in the Children's Act and the Children's Regulations, guidelines on foreign residents by the National Adoption Committee, guidelines on special circumstances by the National Adoption Committee, the General and the Interpretation and General Provisions Act, the Adoption Rules, the Hague Convention on Protection of Children and Cooperation in respect to inter-country adoptions. And then the rules that are usually brought out by the CJ after the Act. Now, in adoption, until 2014, our courts handled both local and international adoptions. But come November 2014, something happened. There was some article in the newspaper about how our children, especially the babies, were being trafficked, and as a result of that, a moratorium was issued. Now, the Act seems to distinguish an international adoption as one where the applicants are not Kenyan citizens, are not resident in Kenya, and intend to live outside Kenya immediately after making of the adoption order by the court. Now, the procedure for both local and international adoption were as per the Act. And a suspicion arose because it was suspected that there could be some kids or other babies who were being trafficked as young as 2 to 5 years old, and we did not know where they were going. So that the international adoptions as at November 2014 were stopped through the moratorium which was passed at a cabinet meeting. Now, their local adoptions also came under scrutiny at that time, and I remember handling 3 cases that were related to local adoptions. In this case, the mother had, in her evidence, according to her, lost 3 children who found their way into adoption homes and eventually came into our courts for adoption through various applicants. One was a Kenyan couple, and the other 3 were international residents. What would happen is that they all followed the procedure, and they came to court, and the applications to stop the adoptions came in at the time when the last leg of the application was to take place in court. She came up saying that the children had been stolen from her, and that she wanted her children back. I did the case. I gave a judgment. 1 child I gave to the grandmother. The other children, I let the adoption process go on, although this lady was proved to be the mother because of the surrounding circumstances. But what happened eventually is that the cases never went on appeal. Those kids somehow have disappeared from the homes. I do not know whether they went back to the supposed mother. I'm no longer in that division. But one of them, I know 1 child was grabbed from the adoptive Kenya parents and taken by the grandfather of that child, alleged grandfather. So those are some of the cases that we had. But when it came to the international adoptions, those ones were stopped, and there's a case going on right now that has been filed in court to challenge the moratorium that was given out by, or rather, given by the cabinet. If I could just read it to you, what the moratorium stated, it said, following the indefinite moratorium on inter-country and resident adoptions and the revocation of licenses to conduct international inter-country adoptions by cabinet on 26th of November 2014, I hereby direct you to urgently do as follows. This came from the cabinet minister. 1, submit a list of all pending inter-country and resident adoption applications, indicate the names of the applicants. the stage of the application and the nationality of the applicants. 2, not to accept any new applications on inter-country or resident adoptions. 3, not to place any child under the inter-country adoptions or resident adoptions. My ministry, that was according to the minister, will issue further instructions on how to proceed with the ones submitted in 1 above, and take note that the moratorium takes effect from the 26th of November 2014. Well, what did we do as a court at this time in family division? We agreed as judges in that division for the international inter-country adoptions that had been approved before 2014, we would go on with them, but look at them with a closer eye and just find out where these children came from, kind of look at the reports again and see what was happening. Most of them actually sailed through because everything was ticked, right? And we felt as a court or judges in that division that there was nothing wrong with them at that time. But we kept wondering ourselves within that division, whether are these kids really safe where they're going? But the department that was concerned, when we called them in for a discussion, actually told us that they had investigated and there was only one particular case that they found that a child was not being taken care of properly. So I would say that there could be cases of human trafficking through those adoption cases, both locally and internationally, but we have no data, no case that has been filed actually to prove that. The High Court has had cases, but because all the legal documents or whatever is filed in court is improper and we've tried to investigate, we've let the children go, both locally and internationally. Right now, we do not have any international adoptions taking place, or rather inter-country adoptions taking place in Kenya. But anyway, as I say, each case is decided on its own facts as they come to court. So what are some of the recommendations that I had in mind? 1, let's revisit some of the sections in our law that deal with adoption and amend the law so that cases of human trafficking that are clothed as adoption can be dealt with properly. 2, if we could, and I believe we could, through the same cabinet that issued this moratorium, investigate the concluded cases, follow to find out where these children went, because there are records that we have within our court records, just to find out whether they are actually with their adoptive parents, and maybe find a way of prosecuting those who actually took out these children for other things other than adopting them as children who they want to take care of and love. The department that deals with adoptions is the Director of Children's Services. I've been in that division and I felt that their reports are rather casual. We would have to push them to give us more detailed reports because they seem to adopt the agency reports which clearly gave a background, but it would appear that they did not do enough investigations. So maybe revamp that division, that department, force them, if we can, tell them that we need proper investigations done, thorough reports being tendered, because most of the reports just reflected what was in the adoption agency. They can do a lot in that department, but I feel that they are not doing a lot. Cases of lost and found children to be thoroughly investigated by the police because they need to do this. You find that the police, like the adoption agency, give us some very sketchy reports at first. So I think as judicial officers, as Judge here has said, we need to do a lot. If the reports are brought, let us investigate them even more and just to find out what is happening. Because this does not just apply to international, inter-country adoptions, but it also applies to the local adoptions. Thank you.